So do you think with all the economical threats that the United States is imposing on Canada and the threat of losing our sovereignty to become the 51st state, all the Trump rhetoric that's being blasted through the media, blasted through into parliament, that it would get people in the parliamentary system back to the House of Commons to deal with this, to actually talk like adults and come to a viable solution? You would think that would be the case, considering they want to take it literally. They want to take it so serious. They want to take the Trump threats are so oh my god, it's so crazy what he's saying. Well, here's apparently what's happening. As government exe is corrupt points out, the Liberal Party says it's unfair to have an election during the crisis. So as many people are having their doubts on the Liberal Party, and they've been having doubts for a long while, which is why we're in this predicament with Justin Trudeau and Melanie Joly and Dominic LeBlanc and Christian Freeland. Just the neglect, the absurdity, the abuse that this party has done to this country. People are done with this. People don't see them as a viable solution to a problem that they pretty much caused. And people want an election. People want to be done with this. People want a change in leadership. But here, the Liberal Party says it's unfair to have an election during a crisis, that everyone is rallying behind Trudeau, and there's no need to reconvene Parliament. So we can't have an election, and you can't go back to work because, oh, there's a Trump tariff threat happening right now. Oh my God, we can't actually do our job because it's a crisis mode right now. When has that ever stopped democracy? There's people that voted during a war back in the day. People used to have elections during World War II. That was back in the day. There was an election during the COVID pandemic. Justin Trudeau called a pop-up election in 2021 to reaffirm himself. When has that ever stopped? When has that ever stopped? But here, 2025, Justin Trudeau resigned earlier in the year, and now all of a sudden, oh, we can't have an election. We can't do our job. We can't pick a leadership right now because this crazy maniac Trump is threatening us with tariffs. Oh, we can't do anything now. The Liberal Party just made it very clear their entire Team Canada approach was BS. Exactly. This idea that they're going to be the defiant force to take Trump head on. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? A lot of this, we wouldn't have to deal with this if it wasn't for them. If it wasn't for their neglect, if it wasn't for the abuse, if it wasn't for the self-interest and the absorption and the complete destruction of this country. And now, here is from CTV News, I think this is Mark Carney walking through the halls here, asking if we should have an election. If you guys should go back to work and actually negotiate and figure something out. Bring Parliament back together so we can actually come to some sort of solution. And the Liberal Party's like, no, we got this. We got this. It's a serious threat, though, but we got this. We don't have to actually work for it.
Would you recall Parliament if you win in order to handle this?
Well, look, don't make a decision before you have to, and progress is being made.
The Prime Minister has been...
So, Mark Carney, progress is being made. What progress? What progress? Yeah, you extended it for another 30 days. Congratulations. Have we seen improvements on border security? No. Have we seen any improvements with the immigration crisis? No. Have we seen really much improvement with the fentanyl crisis? No. What progress have you made? You haven't even returned back to office. What progress have you made through this? Because the only progress I'm seeing is the fact that we're getting more and more Trump rhetoric, and you guys are completely off the grid. You're nowhere to be seen, but apparently you make the time for media appearances to shake your fist and be angry at Trump, but not angry enough to actually do something about it. So now here's Chrystia Freeland on MSNBC. Funny how they have the time to go on U.S. media, but they don't have the time to go back to Parliament and do their actual job. Funny how that works.
Great. And I have to tell you, the whole country is rallying behind him. We all feel personally hurt, and that hurt is now becoming anger.
It's not just.
We're all personally hurt, and I'm feeling angered, but the country is rallying against this jackass. Yeah, that's why you're way behind the conservatives. You're way behind Pierre Poilievre. Because the whole country is rallying against the guy that got us to this mess. Thank God these guys have no plan whatsoever, no solution, no tactic whatsoever to a problem that originated because of their neglect. Yeah, I feel so safe. I feel so secure. I feel like Canada's not going to be threatened by maniacs like Justin Trudeau. Holy crap. But I feel personal because Donald Trump is attacking me. Again, say what you want about Trump. Say what you want about the tariffs, and we just criticized harshly in a previous segment. But the fact of the matter is, the immigration mess is an absolute absurdity. The fact that we have criminal gangs, the fact that we have a fentanyl crisis, the fact that our situation here in Canada is in absolute disposition. The fact that Canadians are struggling to get by. There's 2 million people a month, 2 million a month, lining up at food banks just to nourish themselves and their family. The country is going down the goddamn toilet. And no one within liberal leadership has any sort of notion to even attempt to go back to work. How absurd this all is.
The Conservatives saying that Parliament should come back. It's also the NDP who say, like, for example, if there needs to be some sort of stimulus or massive package for workers who are laid off, should these tariffs be applied, that Parliament should reconvene essentially to move that through as legislation.
The Parliament should be sitting.
So she just reminded me of something because she mentioned about stimulus package. How if people are going to get laid off, if jobs are affected by the tariffs, oh, we're going to get the stimulus package. Have we gotten our $200 checks yet that they promised back in, late November, early December? Remember that? Oh, we're going to give you a benefit check because of inflation, because of our screw up, because we're going to buy your votes. Have we gotten that yet? Has Ford even attempted to do his checks yet? God, no. But now, they don't want to go back to work. The federal government doesn't want to have an election. The provincial government here in Ontario is dead fast on doing an election, which they didn't need to. All they had to do was do their damn job. They don't need to be reaffirmed a mandate to fix the tariff negotiation. They just need to do their goddamn job responsibly. But now here we are in this goddamn mess, and someone like Trump is taking advantage of it because of it. Because we have no defense. No wonder why he picks on us. No wonder why he thinks we're weak. It's not the Canadians that are weak, not our citizens. It's our leadership, our so-called leadership.
Right now, the House should be sitting, Senate should be sitting, work should be done, committees should be meeting. Should be talking about this matter from across the country in the place that it makes sense for it to be talked about. And quite frankly, they're all getting paid and they should all get their butts back to Ottawa.
Lisa pointed out the Liberals are saying in some circles, having an election right away, since the opposition parties have promised at the earliest opportunity to topple the government, wouldn't be, the right, quote unquote, right thing to do at this moment. And the other argument they're putting forward is, and Minister LeBlanc said it here on Sunday, we don't need Parliament for anything that we need to do. We can increase liquidity, for example. We can put in supports through EI. We have the ability to do what we need to do without Parliament being in session.
How friggin' narcissistic BS do you have to be and your head up your own ass to say those words. Oh, we don't need Parliament. We got this under control. Because clearly you've had it under control up to this point, which is why we're in these tariff wars to begin with. Oh, we don't need to go back to work. We don't need Parliament. We don't need democracy. We don't need other people and suggestions and ideas and hear other people out. Ah, we know what's best for you. We know what's best from you. And that's coming from Dominic LeBlanc, the former minister of public safety, who's now the finance minister because of the shuffle of all the ministries and all the people that resigned under this Trudeau circus, who want to take your gun, who want to take hunting guns away and send them off to a bunch of Nazis in Ukraine. That guy has the best intent for you and doesn't want Parliament to resume because, we got this under control. We know what's best for Canada. How goddamn gross that sounds. That someone would actually say that out loud. We don't need to go back to work. We're getting paid either way, so I get to sit on my ass and do nothing, and I still get a paycheck. Meanwhile, thousands of Canadians and multiple companies and multiple economies are collapsing within. The Canadian enterprise is collapsing because of the neglect, because of the narcissism, because of the outright just diabolicalness of this heinous parliamentary system that has been encapsulated by the mass amount of corruption, by the mass amount of neglect, by the billionaire class, by the oligarchs, by globalist hegemonies like the WEF that penetrate through those cabinets, which is why we get these idiot ministers. Because you didn't elect them, folks. They got purposely put in by outsiders, by infiltrators. And not a single person is going to call that out.
Would you?
So now, because they don't want to resume back, they don't want to go back to work, they don't want to negotiate, they don't want to talk to each other. We got it all worked out. Well, it turns out they still haven't picked a border czar. Or sorry, a fentanyl czar. We should have a border czar too, but Justin Trudeau promised a fentanyl czar, and the clock's still ticking. We still have not elected a fentanyl czar to deal with the crisis. And fentanyl is a huge, catastrophic crisis in this country. Huge. People don't see it because it's not reported enough in mainstream media, but it's a huge crisis that's affecting a lot of people. So from the National Post, it says the terms of reference for appointing Canada's first fentanyl czar will be finalized by the end of the week, Public Safety Minister David McGuinty said Thursday, who also committed the government to absolutely filing the role by the time the country reaches the end of its 30-day reprieve period from U.S. tariffs. So they're waiting till last minute. They're waiting till the shot clock runs out to finally pick someone to run the goddamn fentanyl crisis. The crisis that they have implemented, by the way. That was under their watch. Now they're going to pretend to be part of the solution. just like big pharmaceuticals. Sometimes you got to invent a problem, and then you find a way to capitalize on the solution. Or the war machine. Take either or. We intend to be way more proactive than that, McGuinty told reporters during his first official meeting availability in Ottawa since Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and U.S. President Donald Trump reached a deal on Monday, pushing the possibility of a trade war until early March. We're moving forward now. Well, it doesn't look like it. They still won't return to Parliament. They still will not return to Parliament to figure this out. Appointing a so-called fentanyl czar was one of the promises Trudeau made following a second phone call with Trump, who over the weekend signed an order to impose 25% tariffs on imports from Mexico and Canada, with only a 10% levy on Canadian energy resources. A North American trade war was ultimately averted after Trump spoke separately with Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum and Trudeau, each of whom announced specific measures they would undertake to address his border security concerns. Canadian officials have consistently said less than 1% of the migrants and fentanyl entering the United States comes from Canada. That's what they're claiming. But if you look at the RCMP website, we're going to get into this in another segment, but if you look at the actual crisis, it's way larger. It's way larger. And the reason it's such a large number that they're not reporting is because a lot of this is swept under the radar. Because they know how big this crisis is turning. And they don't want the word to get out, because then that'll expose the Liberal government's further complicity to corruption, further complicity to crime, and allowed this to occur. And it's going to wreck their chances of any momentum within the next election. Trudeau promised that in addition to implementing the first stages of a 6-year, $1.3 billion border plan, it would list cartels as terrorist entities, launch a Canada-U.S. strike force to target organized crime and fentanyl, as well as appoint a Fentanyl Czar. He hasn't done any of that yet. He has not done a single thing yet. Even the supposed plan, it says right there, 6 years. 6 years. Do you think Donald Trump is going to wait 6 years for Canada for Justin Trudeau and the Liberal establishment to get off their asses and fix the border? You think he's going to wait 6 years? No one's going to wait 6 years. Canadian people are not going to wait 6 years. In our books, you're 6 years too late. This should have been done in 2015. This should be done years ago. But they let it slide purposely and intentionally to destroy and diminish the sovereignty of Canada and allow crime and chaos and other notions to assure into our streets, so that it rains havoc onto our streets, that people get angry at each other, that there become a brawl of society, and no one's going to point the finger at the government because they're too angry at pointing the finger at everybody else. That's why they did a lot of this. Kitz has characterized the role as a liaison between the Canadian and United States government to better combat the flow of fentanyl, as well as work across different departments from Health Canada to Global Affairs Canada to help improve collaboration. So their biggest idea is, hey, we're just going to shuffle around more people. That's going to work things out. Shuffle around more people. The Fentanyl Czar will be to help us integrate what is a whole of society challenge, he said. Fentanyl is a foreign affairs issue. It's a law enforcement issue. It's an intelligence issue. It's a public health issue. It's a tracing issue in terms of the ingredients that end up being used in the production of fentanyl. The minister said fentanyl is a complicated issue. While he said Canada is taking the U.S.'s concerns seriously, he has also pointed out the deadly drug was unleashed a crisis in Canada, adding he is not afraid of remaining Americans that Canada has challenges with the volume of drugs flowing to the United States. Trudeau has also promised to have a 24/7 eyes on the border with nearly 10,000 frontline personnel. That figure only includes the nearly 8,500 Canada Border Services Agency staff, but the RCMP officers and other members of provincial and local police forces sent by different provinces to assist. National Defense Minister Bill Blair's office has said there is no plans to send the military to the border, but clarified the Canadian Armed Forces has been asked to provide the RCMP with logistics support. A spokesman says the armed forces recently transferred 50 drones to the Mounties and has plans to send 20 more. The RCMP has also leased 2 Black Hawk helicopters to boost its surveillance along the border. McGuinty on Thursday criticized the plan released by the opposition conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, which he has said would call up Canadian forces to the troops to the border along military helicopters and surveillance now. Why would you criticize that? Why would you criticize having our troops back home to defend Canada? Like, it shows the utter stupidity of these people. It shows how, again, you can only say incompetency so much. It shows how insidious these people are. They'd rather have the troops overseas in harm's way, having to, build up terrorist regimes so that we go fight more countries overseas defending nothing, than actually having the troops back home where they're safe and sound and defending something and being closer to home with their families. I would consider that a win-win benefit for everybody. But this McGuinty doesn't see that. Earlier this week, Poilievre pointed to the previous comments made by Chief of Defense Staff General Janine Cragian, who said the military stands ready to support the RCMP and border agency by the way of offering equipment such as helicopters, but there's no plan to militarize the Canadian-U.S. border. McGuinty told reporters Poilievre's comments about sending troops and mounted him, suggesting that the entire Canadian border should be militarized, saying the conservative leader has some explaining to do. This is an important moment because we have jobs at stake, the minister said. So, again, these are people that are just so narcissistic, care about themselves, they're career climbers, they have no intent to actually serving the people, and the only reason they care about this, they leave it right to the end. It's the jobs. My job's at stake if I don't pretend to care about the border, but I don't want to actually care enough to actually go back to work and do something. So I'm just going to pretend and shuffle around some papers and tell Canadians, hey, look at this. We're doing stuff. We're doing stuff. Well, here's a woman that has actually been doing stuff. This is Danielle Smith, the Premier of Alberta. She states the federal government must act now and put an end to their insane soft-on-crime policies, which have allowed illegal drugs to flood into our streets and repeat offenders to prey on our most vulnerable. If they refuse, they must allow the province of Alberta to take over all prosecutions under the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act. Let there be no mistake, Alberta's government will find these dangerous criminals, prosecute them, and keep them behind bars where they belong. So, Alberta, Danielle Smith, who's been for a long while now saying that we need to do something about border security, do something about border. Justin Trudeau needs to get off his ass and do something to defend the sovereignty of Canada and the amount of illegal aliens coming into the country. The illegal migrants that are causing havoc, that are causing crisis, that's a burn to our system, that's a burn to our society. And again, as someone that's pro-immigrant, we need to have some sort of situation because this open door policy is not sustainable. It's not beneficial to any part of this country. It's beneficial to the billionaire class that want open door policies. They want the open door, the open border policies, and implement that into our legislation. But Danielle Smith in Alberta is willing to actually take the extra step to take it to their own means, saying, hey, if the federal government doesn't want to respond, then we'll do it. We'll do it. And here is, now here's Doug Ford. Doug Ford has even come to call on Justin Trudeau to get off his ass and do something. Doug Ford, who's been pretty much buddy-buddy with Justin Trudeau, to the point that they almost sound very similar. Very similar. The guy is supposed to be running the Progressive Conservative Party of Ontario, and the Liberal leader of the federal government seem to have intertwined in their styling of policies. But now here's Doug Ford calling on Justin Trudeau. you got to elect some sort of fentanyl czar right away before the shot clock runs out and we have a tariff war, battle royale with Donald Trump, which is what they're hoping for, which is why they're trying to avoid this as much as possible while it's hurting the rest of Canada. But listen to this.
My question again to Prime Minister Trudeau, where is the fentanyl czar? It's been now 5 days, I believe, and time is running out. We can't be waiting till the last minute. Please appoint a fentanyl czar. Start showing the Americans what we are doing. Show the Trump administration that we have helicopters and fixed wing aircraft and boots on the ground and boats in the water and ATVs up and down. That's what Ontario is doing. But we need to see action from the federal government.
And of course, little jingle on that as a campaign ad. But he's right. Like, TikTok, I don't know what the wait is for. I don't know why they're hesitant on at least attempting to pretend to do something. But as you heard in the compilation by CTV News there, well, the longer they stay out of office, the longer they still maintain control. And they won't be kicked out. They won't be elected out. And they still get paid. Justin Trudeau resigned how many weeks ago? And he's still acting like the king. So it's beneficial to the narcissistic billionaire class, the aristocrats that don't give a damn about you, the oligarchy that uses and abuses you. But for the rest of Canada, for the rest of this nation, we're getting thrown under the bus severely because of their neglect. And it's about time that we called up our officials, that people in government need to get their act together before Canada revolts against them. And we saw a bit of that with the Freedom Convoy. We saw a bit of that with the peaceful demonstration to go against the vaccine mandates, to go after the COVID measures. Imagine more and more people got together at a time like this to go against our government and their neglect of bringing us to the point of losing our sovereignty. It's about time we got another Freedom Convoy 2.0 going at this point. Because all these empty promises are piling up. They're not doing anything. And this 30-day extension of the tariff threat, well, the time is running out. So what is Justin Trudeau going to do? He's in Paris right now. That's how much of a concern he cares about these incoming threats of our economic. What's Justin Trudeau? What's Justin Trudeau been doing in result of this? Absolutely nothing.